Welcome into Southeastern 16. It is time for our SEC football power rankings for this week. And I feel like, Chris, it just gets harder and harder every week to figure out where to put these teams with all the mass chaos that we see across SEC football. But we're going to dive right into it. We'll start at the bottom. We'll work our way up. And the team that has been at number 16 pretty much all season remains there. That's the Mississippi State Bulldogs. They fall again to Missouri this past week. But, Chris, they haven't been able to find a way to get an SEC win yet.
Yeah, they just don't have the horses. This was the easiest decision in the power rankings. They remain competitive, but going to be winless in the SEC, barring an upset in the Egg Bowl, which who knows after Ole Miss, but that's where they are.
And number 15, the Kentucky Wildcats. They have been at this spot ever since that loss to Auburn. But Kentucky, another one of those teams, I thought they did some good things against Texas at times. A lot of penalties. Quarterback situation, strange. We'll see what they can do against Louisville this week. But Kentucky, again, finding themselves towards the bottom.
Yeah, very disappointing season for the Cats, who did some good things in spots at Texas, got a defensive touchdown, made a quarterback change to Cutter Boley, who's been there 3. Very interested to see how that plays out heading down the stretch. You know, they've owned that series with Louisville recently. Don't count the Cats out. This team has still got enough talent if they can generate just a little bit of offense.
And the number 14 team, they were able to get a win, big win for them in 4 overtimes, but they got the win against Texas A&M. The Auburn Tigers remain there at number 14. But, Chris, I feel like they're starting to figure some things out, which I think is very good for Auburn. I thought Peyton Thorne's playing much better. They looked good against Texas A&M. At times, they made some mistakes too, but down the stretch, they're able to get it done. But I thought it was a good game by Peyton Thorne.
You know, the distance between 14 and the top few spots really is not that much. A&M found that out this weekend with Auburn. The only reason Auburn didn't move up more than this was because of what some teams in front of them did and pulling some upsets. But Auburn just has not banked enough on the season to move higher. But this is a team that showed Saturday night in Auburn capable of beating just about anybody, anywhere at any time if the right team shows up, and the right team showed up on Saturday.
And they got a big one Saturday across their state in Tuscaloosa that we'll talk about more on this channel as we move through the week. Number 13, another upset, the Oklahoma Sooners. They big win over Alabama, not allowing a touchdown in that game. Did Oklahoma. They ran the ball well. Great game. We saw things from Jackson Dart we hadn't all year. Great win by Oklahoma.
Yeah, Jackson Arnold's who you meant. I knew.
Yeah, Jackson Arnold. Jackson, yes.
We've doing a lot of football content. That illustrates the point we've been trying to make. It is all starting to run together. And if you're saying, well, why did Oklahoma not move up higher? Perhaps it should have, but a lot of teams have now pulled big upsets this season. But seriously, a dominating performance by that defense. I think we might have casually mentioned it in our preview of Alabama last week that Oklahoma's defense is good enough to keep it in games. And boy, I did not expect that. Oklahoma made a change with its offense, running Jackson Arnold a little bit more. Going to be interested to watch that going forward, seeing how that plays out this weekend at LSU. But Oklahoma fans got a jolt of excitement that they haven't had in a while in what has been a tough year with the injuries and all that.
It has. That was a big jolt, I feel like. And they are bowl eligible, and I thought that was huge for Oklahoma to be able to win that game. Number 12, no movement here, and that's the Arkansas Razorbacks as they remain there at number 12. But again, it's the margin between a lot of these teams. It's hard to do these power rankings just with all these teams beating each other, but Arkansas remains there at number 12.
Yeah, the problem with Arkansas is it's been a minute since we've seen Arkansas's better performances. Beat Louisiana Tech. That's probably a bottom 25 team in college football. It just not a situation where Arkansas was going to move up a lot with the win. Could have moved down with the loss, but that's where they are. They are bowl eligible, and looking forward to seeing that game at Missouri Saturday because I think both teams have got a little bit to play for. Going to tell you about another team that's got something to play for in just a minute, Chase. But first, BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting. From the earliest odds to in-game live betting, BetOnline provides you with all the action and the ability to watch the games as they happen with the largest selection of odds on everything from football, NBA, and college basketball, NHL to UFC and MMA. Head to BetOnline today. Get in on all the action with America's most trusted site for online wagering. BetOnline, the game starts here. Which brings us to number 11, the Vanderbilt Commodores. I think the lowest, Chase, they've been in a couple of weeks here.
Yeah, and you think about their matchup with LSU, and you'll see LSU on our list here in just a second. But I thought that was a game Vanderbilt could go down and win. LSU was able to get it done at home, but yeah, Vanderbilt has moved down. As it's been a great season. You can't take that away from Vanderbilt. They just been they haven't been lately what we saw at the beginning of the season. A lot to do with they played a lot of football. They're a little banged up, so that's kind of where we see Vanderbilt right now, I think.
Yeah, depth usually starts to take a toll on Vanderbilt this time of year. You're just seeing an offense that's kind of running out of fumes, a defense that's not executing as well as it was a few weeks back. The bye week didn't really appear to help Vanderbilt as much as I would have thought against our number 10 team.
Yeah, LSU comes in at number 10 again. We've LSU the past few weeks has been up and down. They get blown out by Alabama. They lose to Florida, but they're able to go out and beat Vanderbilt on their home field, which I thought was good because I felt like going into this game we would find out a lot about LSU. Chris, the way they played this game, if they're still as motivated as they were going into that Alabama game.
Yeah, I think people get a little distracted with the 4 losses, and are there times where they've not looked good in certain elements of the game? Yeah, there was the whatever that was in Florida with the offensive lineman, but you watch them play. They've still got a really good passing game with Aaron Anderson, Kyron Lacey, Mason Taylor, Garrett Nussmeier. They still got dudes up front that can get after the passer. They got Whit Weeks. This is a team it's not vintage LSU, but it is still a team like a lot of teams behind it did. Still good enough to beat anybody in any situation on the right Saturday. And so don't sleep on LSU. I thought that might be a team that mailed it in for the season after that loss at Florida. Clearly, that was not the situation in Baton Rouge.
Yeah, and I thought that was good to see from the Tigers. Number 9, the Florida Gators. How about Florida? Look, the schedule's brutal. We go into this final stretch, and you think, oh, my goodness, you got Texas, LSU, Ole Miss. They'll end the season with Florida State, and the Georgia in the mix as well. They play Georgia close injuries. They lose to Texas, but to rattle off back-to-back wins against LSU and Ole Miss this past Saturday, Billy Napier's got the Gators going in the right direction. This program is totally different from what we saw 1st of September to now.
Yeah, and still not a team that's totally well. And I guess you can say that of a lot of teams in the league, but Florida's really missed some key pieces to do what Billy Napier has done, going from on the hot seat to, hey, is this guy your SEC Coach of the Year, against a schedule that could have sunk them from the beginning. I mean, remember all the way back to opening week, when you lose to Miami the way Florida did, wasn't really that competitive. Go to week 3 against A&M, just got run over by the Aggies rushing attack. It just did not feel, you look at the schedule ahead, you go, how in the world does he survive this? Well, Billy Napier survived it, and frankly, I think you've got to be a lot more bullish on where he's got the program as they head into a rivalry game with Florida State. By the way, interested to see if Florida wins that. I think if you're a pollster, you got to seriously consider ranking them. I think they won't do it with 5 losses, but I think the resume is going to justify it at that point.
Yeah, and it is tremendous what they've done there at Florida this year. And we have them at number 9. Looking at number 8, Missouri Tigers coming in there. Got the win over Mississippi State this weekend. And it's been Missouri. You look at the beginning, you thought, well, hey, this could be a playoff team. Now, we got them number 8 here in our power rankings. Just, I feel like they've had some injuries, but we just haven't seen this offense, I feel like, working on all cylinders really since week 3 or 4, maybe 5 of the season.
Their defense has been really steady, with the exception of an ugly game or two. That they had another defensive score on Saturday. Brady Cook's playing really well. Luther Burden had one of his better games in a while. This is a team that I think is still dialed in and ready to play. I'm sure everybody saw that last goal line sequence where Eli Drinkwitz was screaming at Mississippi State and threatening to tack on another score. But this is a team that a lot of people gave up on Missouri, but I think under Brady Cook's leadership has shown they have not given up on the season. Excited to see what they can do. Hey, don't look now, but Missouri could get to 10 wins. And I know it's not the playoff, but that's still a great season in Columbia.
It is. Yeah, it really would be. Here's where it gets like, where do we put all these teams now? And some head scratchers here. Ole Miss, number 7, after they lose on the road in the swamp down in Gainesville against the Florida Gators Saturday, as that put Ole Miss out of the playoff conversation, losing that game to Florida. This was the year for Ole Miss. A lot of those players came back, said, "Hey, we want to win a national championship at Ole Miss," and now their playoff dreams have been crushed. I thought they've been playing well, Chris. I mean, with their back against the wall, they put up a lot of points, but some questionable decisions. Just not able to get it done in Gainesville Saturday.
Well, this is where it gets tough, and just for fun, this is the composite power ranking I keep. This is the top 10 this week nationally, starting with 1. Ohio State, Texas, Alabama, Notre Dame, Ole Miss, Georgia, Oregon, Tennessee, Penn State, Miami. Now, winning and losing has got to count. Ole Miss, just as it comes off a huge win over Georgia, and with their resume, they didn't have a lot of huge wins. It goes and does that. If you're just doing point spreads, team against team, the power rankings would tell you that Ole Miss deserves to be higher. But the problem is you got to beat the good teams on your schedule. That's 3 losses for them now. The Kentucky one really weighing them down. And unfortunately, I would have loved to have seen Ole Miss in the playoff. But I think just too much to overcome probably at this point, although with the craziest in college football week in and week out, you don't write it in blood yet that they don't make it, but it looks like a big uphill climb.
Yeah, you're right about that. And the same for number 6 in our power rankings this week, Alabama, now with 3 losses after the big loss on the road to Oklahoma Saturday in Norman. So, again, barring just craziness across college football, another team who was in the playoff now on the outside looking in.
I don't know what to do with them. You just heard the power rankings that I rattled off, which had them 3rd nationally, but then you watch them play it sometimes. And when Jalen Milroe is not playing well, and it still amazes me, Chase, that they have not found a running game the way we thought they would with Justice Haynes, with Jam Miller. It's like you take away Milroe's feet and you take away a lot of their offense. I don't know. I mean, Alabama, the way Alabama's been all year, just when you count them out, they come out the next week and look great again. But this is a team that's been a little frustrating to watch. And I could get losing in Norman. 3 points is the part that I don't get.
Yeah. It just felt like the offense kept stalling out. That's not what we're used to seeing from Alabama. So, yeah, it's hard to know what to do or where to put this Crimson Tide team, because when they're on, they're on. When they're not, they are not at all. And so, it's a head scratcher there with the Crimson Tide. Number 5, Texas A&M Aggies. They go to Jordan-Hare Stadium, 4 overtimes. They lose to Auburn. Now, it's a good comeback. They were down 21-7. I thought they did a good job of coming back, keeping themselves in the game, but in the end, not able to win. The slip up of words from Mike Elko last week. Our total attention's on Texas. I mean, Auburn. I think they may have been looking ahead to Texas last week.
Yeah, and our power rankings is just more than the two of us here. I think A&M should have been penalized with that loss a little bit more than when we had them here. But, hey, you beat Texas next week and you justify it. That's a big game. I'm a little concerned. I feel like they need a little bit more of a passing game maybe than they have at times. But, game for the season. Look, you win that game, your hopes are still alive. So we'll see where it goes.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Now, number 4, probably the hottest team right now, and that is the South Carolina Gamecocks. And, boy, they got a big one to Clemson this week. Obviously, they're a big rivalry, but to see what they're doing on both sides of the ball, they're getting comfortable offensively, doing big things. They're playing good defensively. Like, this is a good South Carolina team who is trying so hard and rooting for chaos, so maybe they can have a chance.
Yeah, I think that obviously Carolina benefited a little bit by some teams below them not playing well last week, but I think this is justified. It's not because Carolina beat Wofford. It's because if you watched what the Gamecocks did to Texas A&M, Vandy, Missouri, back to back to back, this is a team that I think is almost as much as anybody in the country right now you don't want to play. I am hoping the committee gives a 3-loss Carolina team a look at the playoff. If it is able to beat Clemson, because I think it is good enough to be one of the top 12 teams in the country. We'll see what the committee thinks. I don't give them a lot of credit for being forward thinking like that, but we're about to find out.
Yeah, you're right. So South Carolina 4, Tennessee Vols, big win over UTEP Saturday. They are number 3. As again, Tennessee defense has been outstanding this year, and that's really been their calling card, with offense good at times and consistent at other times, but defensively they've been it this year.
Yeah, this is going to sound like a backhanded compliment. It's not meant that way. But in a season where you can't count on much of anything week to week, and you had Georgia struggling with UMass, one thing Tennessee does is just smash a mediocre or bad opponent. And the Vols did that, took care of business with the very decisive shutout of UTEP.
And number 2, the Georgia Bulldogs. As Georgia, to me, you clean up some stuff, which was cleaned up, and Carson Beck, no interception Saturday against UMass. Now, UMass was able to do some things on Georgia, but I feel like this is the time of the year where if Georgia starts getting hot, that could be very dangerous.
Yeah, and by deductive reasoning, you figured out probably Texas is number 1, so I put them up there because this is really I feel like it's a Texas-Georgia conversation at this point.
Yeah,
maybe we messed up not having Georgia won since it won in Texas's ballpark. I don't know. Georgia's played maybe the toughest schedule of anybody in the conference. I think sometimes that doesn't get enough credit. Texas has played probably one of the 2 or 3 easiest schedules in the conference. Probably Missouri would be in that conversation too. But yeah, we're going to find out soon enough.
Yep, we will. So that is those are our power rankings for another wild week of college football and SEC football. It's rivalry week, which means anything can happen again this Saturday, and we know there's going to be craziness and upsets happen. So keep it tuned in here to Southeastern 16. Well, of course, we'll be live Saturday night after the games to recap them and react to them. So hit that subscribe button if you have not already here to our channel. Like this video, share it with your friends, spread the word about Southeastern 16, because we've got you covered not only with SEC football, great SEC basketball coverage as well, live streams all the time covering SEC basketball, SEC baseball too. We're putting out some shows, talking some fall baseball as well. We'll go heavy baseball when the season rolls around as well. So all things SEC, we're your home. Southeastern 16. For Chris Lee, I'm Chase Robinson. We are Southeastern 16, presented by Bet Online.